What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Swagcast. This week, I have an exciting, fun guest, a wrestling podcaster that's interviewed huge names like Teddy Long, Shaza McKenzie, and more indie savages. He's also on Hardcam for St. Louis Anarchy. What's going on, Squintz? How we doing?
What's going on? What's going on? It's crazy. I haven't been introduced as a game operator yet.
Yeah, no, that's like one of the main things that I wanted to talk about actually was like the hard camming.
Yeah,
Cuz
yeah,
I'm really interested in like the behind the scenes work of not just wrestling but like most production in general. I mean, I'm a content creator, so like I love like learning about like back like scene production and stuff like that. And you're literally in the back of the house doing hard cam work. And I've seen you post before, like you've had to use old cameras or like these big hunky things. Like, so so this is a little farther in, but so like what kind of got you into like the opportunity to even become a hard camera?
yeah. My buddy Tommy, who is like the lead of production at Anarchy, he uh, he hit me up last March, I want to say, if I wanted to go to KC with him and help him out with just a hard cam. And I was like, oh, I don't, what's it called? I can't get off work. But if you guys ever need help at Anarchy, holla at me. And
Mm.
he was like, and he was like, well, actually, Anarchy, we need somebody behind the camera for hard cam. If you want to come to this show on this date, um, it's BOI. Uh, if you want to come to the show on this date, work hard cam, and we'll get you started there. I was like, all right. So, like, I did one show there, thinking it was just gonna be like a one-time thing, and then uh did the one show there and then another show and then another show and then like because I did it, yeah, I was just on like a month to month basis doing it with him,
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, I'm just going to help out. And then December he told me, he's like, you're on the team now, so be here in January. And then after like February or so, he was like, let's take this on the road, let's start taking bookings. And now I'm taking bookings to do hard can. It's crazy. But
So
it's funny. I can't go without saying this though. He told me that the reason he messaged me is because of Cameron Hawkins, Seahawk,
mm,
uh, put me over on Twitter, and he's seen that. So, and I always make it known to, like, I'm forever grateful for Seahawk. Without Seahawk, I wouldn't be getting the opportunities I have.
so that brings me to an initial question I had. What even got you into indie wrestling to begin with? Like, cause a lot of people start with like what's on TV, but indie wrestling is very hard to find, especially like full matches or full cards, unless you have it in your area. And for somebody like me, we only have one indie promotion. So how did you really find yourself getting into indie wrestling?
So St. Louis is a hotbed for indie wrestling right now, and like it always has been. And it was just one of those things where like I went to a couple Glory Pro shows, and I was like, oh, this is fun. And then I ended up going to like a couple Anarchy shows, and then I ended up just signing up for Independent Wrestling TV, and just I don't know, like there was nothing that really like drew me in besides maybe like I think I seen Cody Rhodes was on a card here, so I went to one of those shows.
Mm. So that's always cool seeing like big talent on a local card. So you don't only hard cam for St. Louis anymore. Or Anarchy. You're more doing other promotions and other shows as well.
Yeah, so I also do hard cam for WrestleMax. I've done hard cam for Zero One USA a couple or twice now, and then the big one I did GCW last month, which was bizarre to me.
Yeah, no, that is bizarre. I actually had no idea you did GCW. I should have done more research. That's actually a crazy ass like just to be there behind the scenes. Now, I know at most of your indie shows you're interacting with all of the wrestlers as well because you're always posting like a bunch of pictures with the wrestlers. Do you ever have like thoughts of maybe getting in the ring yourself, or even like doing commentary or something more kind of in front of the camera, or do you always want to be behind it?
So, like, I want to always be behind the scenes in that sense.
Hmm.
I don't ever want to be in the ring, so I don't want to do like referee or having a match. But like, I would love to do commentary or like a backstage interview type role like Kathy Kelly does,
Yeah.
like one of those types of roles. But I could never see myself getting physical in the ring.
I'm maybe I'm just a fanboy, but I've always wanted to get put through a table. Like that's it. I don't want a full match. I don't want a career. I just want like to get put through a table. Like that like pulled from crowd choke slam down, you know. That's a dream of mine. So now like you're friends with tons of wrestlers, and that kind of leads into you're able to create content with them outside of it, leading into the podcast. What initially led you to start the podcast? Was it because you had the access to all of these wrestlers?
So I actually didn't get access to any of these wrestlers until the podcast. I started the podcast. It's been something I've wanted to do. I've started and stopped it probably 4 times. And like in 2020, I was like, now's the time to really jump on it. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody's at home. I can get anybody on a Zoom call. So like July 8th is the exact date that or yeah, July 8th is when I first went live. July 3rd is whenever I launched the page. But I don't know, it's something I've always wanted to do. And like I said, I was just sitting at home during COVID. And yeah, but no, I didn't have any, like, I knew some of the wrestlers and I was cool with some of them, but like not many knew me. But now, like now with me doing it for 4 years, I have more of like a name, if that makes sense for myself.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Like you kind of you're growing tenure in the business, as you would say.
Yeah.
And the more you're around, the more eyes will attract to you. And so now, while I was digging through your podcast, I noticed that there's a couple episodes with a co-host, and then there's some episodes without a co-host. So now, is there a co-host on this podcast?
So this is a little bit of a this is gonna go into a story if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Uh,
go for it. We're here.
I started off the podcast solo, and then one summer night I was like, oh, I want to do a WWECW podcast reviewing all of like 2006 to 2010 ECW, and I threw it out there on Twitter, and my very good friend, my best friend actually, and I hope he listens to this because I never say it publicly, but Cody, you're my best friend, dog. He hit me up. He's like, "Yo, let's do this." Me and him have never interacted. Me and him had never talked before. And I was like, "All right, cool. I'll send you a Zoom link next week. We'll review episode 1. Go from there." So like, we do the WWECW podcast like 6 weeks. And then me and him were just like, this is mentally draining watching this. Like, it's just too much. So then I was like, well, let's do 2 men in their podcast. And it can be like, rather than an interview podcast for me, it could be just me and my friend just catching up, bullshitting, yada yada. So that starts happening. And then here's my favorite story. Me and him have only known each other for like, let's say, 4 months when this happens.
Mm-hmm.
And we were gonna go to the GCW show at the Hammerstein. That fell through. And he's like, "Hey, I'm booked that weekend in New Jersey. Fly out here, anyways." And I was like, "I'll fly out there. Who cares?" So me, me myself, just I spend a shit ton of money on a plane ticket. I get a bunch of stickers made because I'm like, I'm gonna sell merch here too. Because the show he was working was like, yeah, set up a table, and I was like, all right, cool. Let me get some merch. So I spent a bunch of money on a plane ticket, on stickers. Me and him spent money on an Airbnb. So I'm flying to New Jersey, and like soon as I land at my layover in Chicago, I get a text message from him. Call me. And I was like, call you? What? And I call him. And I was like, yo, what's good? He's like, hey, Airbnb fell through. I'll let you know where the new one is. And I was like, brother, I'm 20,000 feet in the air. I was like, I'll do what I can when I land. So I land. We end up having a new Airbnb, but we can only stay in that Airbnb for one night, or 2 nights and we're there for 3 nights. And I was like, okay. And there's a whole bunch into this story. Me and him go over it on the podcast a bunch. But so like we get to do the Airbnb for 2 nights, and then we're like, well, we need to find somewhere to stay for one more night because we're here one more night. My plane leaves like on Monday, not tomorrow. And then we woke up Monday. He dropped me off at the airport. Uh, and yeah, it was just a whole situation. But no, if I texted Cody right now and I was like, "Hey, 2 minute podcast question mark," he would say either "fuck off," "die," or he would say maybe, because me and him just he's done with wrestling. He wants out of wrestling as much as possible. But Cody knows that he's my best friend, and yeah, it's funny though because not many people know about the co-host.
Yeah, no, I was digging through, and they're old. They're like the oldest episodes, and I listened to two of them, and y'all do be getting hilarious together, especially where
Yeah.
there's no guest and it's just you two. It is absolutely hilarious. Now, so I actually want to now talk about how, because you've had some crazy guests on the podcast, and I want to talk about how you're able to get some of these guests, or like how do you do like shooting for your shots per se? Like do you just kind of slide DMs, or like, for example, how did you go about getting somebody like Teddy Long onto the podcast?
Yeah, so for most of them, it's either I just slide in the DMs and I have like this big long message I send them where it's like super convoluted, where it's like, hello, my name is shoot name. Uh, I have a podcast, blah blah blah. I've had these guests on, and I usually list like 5 or 6 different guests, give a rundown of what the episode is, blah blah blah. Or if their DMs aren't open, I do the same thing in their email. But for like somebody like Teddy Long, I was at a convention, and after the convention there was a wrestling show, and I was like walking into the venue for the wrestling show, and Teddy was just kind of sitting outside the room where the ring was, and I just like walked up to him and I was like, hey Teddy, I have a podcast, I was wondering if you wanted to be on it one time, sometime. Gave him the whole rundown of it, and he was like he goes, yeah, do you have your phone on you? And I was like, yeah, and I pulled out my phone, and he's like, all right, here's my phone number, boo 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 boo. And I was like, damn, all right. So Teddy Long gave me his phone number, and that's how we went about that one.
So you just casually were texting Teddy Long to set up
Yeah,
an episode.
texting him. Me and him had a few phone calls, like on the cell phone, talking. Yeah, it's pretty bizarre. There's been a couple situations like that. Before I had Buff Bagwell on, me and him just sat on the phone for like, I want to say 20 minutes about a week before the episode. Just he wanted to call and talk to me and get to know me before the episode, so it wasn't just tense when we pressed record. So that was cool. Dan Severn, I have his phone number. Uh, Warren, I have his phone number. Uh, who else? Oh, Tony Mamaluke. I don't know if many people know Tony Mamaluke, but ECW guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
but
bunch
yeah,
of dogs.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But like, yeah, for the most part, it's just DMs or it's email. Like if they have a booking email in their bio, I'll do that. And if they don't have either of those, so the one time that I did it, that I ran out of options. It was the Tony Mamaluke one, and I'm so proud of how I went about this. I looked up Tony Mamaluke on Cage Match, found the last wrestling show he worked. I emailed that wrestling promotion that he worked for, asking if they could get me in contact with Tony. And then they gave me Tony Mamaluke's phone number, and they said, we just got approval from Tony Mamaluke. Here's his phone number. And then I called Tony Mamaluke, and he was like, I'm not going to lie, kid, you busted your ass to try to get in contact with me. And I was like, hell yeah.
Nah, that's actually awesome that like he commented on how hard you like, on how much effort you put into to contact him. Now,
That's the only one I've done that for, though.
so I've talked to other podcasters about this before, where it is sometimes when sliding into a woman's DM that you would like on the podcast, she just doesn't look at DMs because a lot of her DMs are disgusting. And shout out Macy Barber. I'm just trying to ask you to come onto the podcast. I'm not sliding in the DMs, I promise. But like so have you ever had that encounter where like somebody wasn't responding because maybe they looked at you in the wrong light, but then like it comes out that you're a podcaster, you know, innocent, and then they kind of message you back and like, yeah, oh, come on, let's get it done.
No, not really, because like the only women I've had on the podcast was Billy Starks, but for Billy Starks I had Mouse on. Uh, I had her dad Mouse on like a week prior, and then I like asked him first. I was like, hey, if I asked Billy to be on, just because she was like 16, maybe 17 at the time, and I wanted to get his approval first. And he was like, yeah. And then uh who else? Charlie Evans. Me and her husband, Everconners, are cool. So like that was real easy. I just kind of messaged him. I was like, hey, do you and Charlie want to be on? And then for who was Shazza. Shazza, I work a bunch of shows with her, so like I just talked to her in person about it. I'd be like, hey, do you want to come on? No, actually for Shazza, funny enough, for Shazza, I was at a GCW show and I went up to talk to Charlie and Everett, and they were like, "Hey, why don't you have Shazza on the podcast?" And then Shazza was like, "Yeah, why haven't you asked me to be on your podcast yet?" And I was like, "Whoa, whoa!" And I was like, "We can make it happen. We can make it happen." But yeah, I haven't really had anybody like have an issue like thinking I was in the DMs for a wrong reason.
See, I was told a crazy story where like he slid into DMs and then the husband messaged him and he was like, brother, I'm a podcaster, I make content, and like was just sending links to the Spotify. And I was so like, but I mean it's never happened to me either. And I shoot like I slide in like 5 DMs a day. Like I
Yeah.
shoot a lot of shots. So I'm sure it's very rare. It's just that one story I heard. However, let's take a reversal real quick. Shoot back to Teddy Long. I heard Teddy Long was a dickhead, like by a lot of people, and I even went through a Reddit. There's a Reddit Teddy Long page that like goes through like times people met Teddy Long and like didn't work well. Or I think it's celebrity meetups, but Teddy has his own section, which is crazy in
Yeah, yeah.
celebrity meetups because it's Teddy Long. And so, like,
Yeah.
do you have any crazy stories of the podcast with Teddy or setting it up, or was he nice to you throughout the entire time?
So, uh, I've told a few close friends the story of the Teddy Long experience, I call it. Uh, Basically, he was nice at first. I'm not gonna say he was rude at first. He was real cool about being on the podcast. Um, I made the foolish mistake of paying someone to be on the podcast, which I'm sure you've been told never pay for a guest. And I was like, it's
Uh,
Teddy Long. I was like, it's Teddy
yeah,
Long.
it
I'll
is Teddy
pay.
Long though. That is like an
And
exception I would make. I feel.
yeah, so I was like, it's Teddy Long, all right. And then he wanted me to pay him through like Walmart Pay. He wanted me to do like a money order. And I was like, okay. And then like they wouldn't allow it at Walmart. They weren't allowing me to do it. And then I told him multiple times. I was like, "Hey, we're doing 4 o'clock Central Time, brother. 3:30. I'll send a link. 4 o'clock. We click record." And he's like, "Okay, holla holla, player, blah blah blah." The day of the podcast, I'm sitting in my room collecting all the notes for the episode, and at 3 o'clock Central Time, I get a phone call from Teddy Long, and he's like, "Where the fuck are you?" And I was like, "Look, we have 30 minutes before I send the link. I'm collecting all my notes." And he's like, "No, no, I need you on now. You said 4 o'clock. It's 4 o'clock." And I was like, "No, it's 3 o'clock Central Time right now." But okay. So then I hopped on my setup. Do 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 do. Got the setup all together. Um, and then like if you listen to the episode, he's very like dry, if that makes sense in the
Yeah.
episode. And right at the beginning he made like a very sly mark. He was like, he said, as you can tell, this young man's still new to this and still trying to learn how to do this stuff. And I was like, dog, dog, I've been doing this 4 years. And then he kept trying to make it sound like he's like, yeah, I just did this to help him out, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, brother, all due respect, my podcast would be fine with or without anyone on it. And then like I don't know, like the whole episode he was dry. He wouldn't answer none of my questions. I'd ask him a question, he would just kind of like you'd ask him a question and he would just answer it close ended to where there is no room for a follow up question. And then I'd be like, okay. So like it was like a whole lot of rather than conversational how my podcasts are, it was a whole lot of stop and go Q&A style, which is not my type of podcast for me. Like, and then just after the episode, I did my whole rundown with him. I was like, uh, after the episode, I was like, all right, thank you, sir. It means a lot that you were on. I'll be sending you this link. I'll send you the link to it when it's done. Blah 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 blah. He goes, okay, was it good enough for you? And I was like, yeah, yes, sir, it was good enough. He goes, okay, boop, and hung up the Zoom call. And I was like, and I sat in my room. I like closed my laptop. I sat in my room and I just like stared at my TV and I was like, dog, that did not just happen. And I like texted Seahawk and I was like, dog, I need, have you ever had a situation like this? And he's like, you just got to truck through it. And a few people like in the content creation space were all cool about it. And they were like, you just got to truck through, dog.
Yeah.
Like you're in, and I was like, yeah, it just sucks. It just sucked.
Nah,
But yeah,
that
no. Oh yeah,
situation.
Teddy Long is a dick.
Yeah, no. I figured that it is a shitty situation that unfortunately you do have to just truck through. Like I've interviewed content creators that I felt like were like cool with me that kind of like gave me a cold shoulder the entire interview or stuff like that. And yeah, it is something that you just have to like truck through and damn Teddy Long though, I would have been like, fuck you, Teddy. You're going one on one with the Undertaker. But that like there was
No,
no Undertaker, but you know.
that was the that's the only like bad episode I've had though, like with dealing with somebody. Everyone I've had on for the most part have all been really cool and very like fun to talk to and all of that.
So now you said you paid to have Teddy Long on. How much did you pay Teddy, if you don't mind me asking?
I paid him $100 for 30 minutes. And we only went 25, I think.
Damn, he robbed you. Um, no, but so this is why I actually had a situation a couple weeks ago where a wrestler was cut from the WWE and I emailed him the second I saw his booking email drop on Twitter and I was told he was charging 400 for 30 minutes. And I said, "No way, Jose." And but other people but it's like half divided.
How, how recent were they released? Because I think I know who you're talking about.
Uh, they were released like they were on Raw. They were never actually on Raw, I think. And they wrestled for in Speed, and then they got released. About 2 months
They
ago.
were in NXT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
sucks. And it sucks because I don't expect anybody to do anybody a favor. So like that's your job. It is what it is. But like some people are like, nah, Swag, you should have paid that, and other people are like, no, that's fucking ridiculous. Like you still work a full-time job. Don't even fucking make money from the podcast. Why are you paying somebody? And those people kind of got to me more than the people like, nah, take the shot. But like, I don't know. I would like to hear your opinion on it after actually paying somebody now.
So I have paid 3 people now. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, because one of them, I'll say one of the names besides Teddy. One of them was Buff Bagwell.
Okay.
And that is to this day probably one of my favorite episodes I've done, just because it was my first like big guest, big, big guest, and he didn't charge much. I'm not going to say how much, but he didn't charge much for the time we went. And then the second person I paid, they paid a little bit too much for my liking, but it was still a fun episode. I Jack Evans' agent told me never pay for an interview. Jack Evans' agent told me that I should never have to pay for an interview because just because. And like the way I look at it is like unless you are financially able to in a financial position to where you can pay for an episode, by all means do it. But if you're not profiting off of it, I wouldn't. Like because that's the way I look at it now. Like because like there's a few recently released people that I've had to decline due to money. I'm like, sorry, but I'm just not in no financial position to pay for an interview with you. I'm sorry. And yeah.
Yeah, I've gone on record in saying I'll pay RVD. Like if RVD wants to step in front of a camera, the only thing is I need an hour and he needs to smoke a joint with me. Those are the two like things I need. He has to smoke a full joint with me and it needs to be a full hour cuz I have a lot of questions for RVD. But besides that, I really like it's very easy for me to say no, especially after that happened cuz it was $400. That's a lot of money. That US dollars. That's a lot of money, man. So I declined it.
And like and the way I look at it is because I know who you're talking about. I know exactly who you're talking about. Um, he doesn't need the money. He I love who we're talking about, and if for
I
whatever
love him
reason he
too.
sees this, I love him. I respect the shit out of him. But a lot of the people asking for money to do a podcast, they are either coming off of a huge salary, or they are making way more money than like me, and they don't need the money for an hour like episode. I don't know.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I've interviewed people like Ben Bishop recently. That's a wrestler that I've
Yeah.
recently interviewed, and he was so cool. I got 30 minutes. Like he explained to me, like, listen, all I have is 30 minutes because like I have to wake up and then I have to hit a flight in like 2 hours. And I was like, that's fucking perfect. Let's get it done. And like literally was the coolest person ever. Asked me if I got everything I needed. Was like cool. So we're still in touch to this day. Like awesome. Same with Tim Elliott. Fucking didn't. Then he's like top of one of the tops in his division. So like that's another one that I would expect to maybe ask for money. And he was so like humble about it too. And like that I once again I don't expect anybody to owe podcasters anything. But like if it was to Chris who's the really big wrestler podcaster.
Oh, Chris Van Vliet.
Yes, if it was Van Fleet, you're not even talking about money. You're just running to sit down with him. Like I understand, but like
Yeah.
there's pros and cons to it.
No, definitely.
So beyond the podcast, is there any future content plans like anything you see that you want to do with content uh involving wrestling or maybe not involving wrestling, maybe just everyday life?
So lately, the last I want to say like week and a half, 2 weeks now, I've been doing a lot of video editing, doing music videos, making music videos. Uh just like I did one match set to a song and I liked that a little bit. But then I started now I'm doing just like more so just just wrestler set to a song. Like I did one like Jeff Hardy set to Hurt.
Yeah,
I
that
did
I was gonna say that one was perfect because the song, because Jeff,
yeah.
like you had on the chorus, you had him doing like slamming into a ladder or like going in the trash cans, and I thought it was hilarious because of my sense of humor is just like, oh, he's getting hurt while the song Hurt's playing, but like
That was
but
the
like
main point.
it was a great edit. You're and the thing with like wrestling song edits, some I feel like are so overdone, and the way I've seen you doing it, it's more like you're going off of your interest. Like I haven't seen many Jeff Hardy ones in the last couple of years because Jeff Hardy's like not really like top of the top anymore. But you're taking like old moments stuff you grew up on and like making that into edits.
Yeah, like the one I did today, I did Jamie Noble. I've never seen a Jamie Noble edit, not once. And I did a Jamie Noble edit. I made it last night. Yeah, I made it last night and uploaded it today, and it's probably my favorite I've made. Just because like I'm starting to get the hang of like lining up like end packs to beats, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see. I started to one time make a Ricky Starks edit to like a really funny song, and it was a Young Gravy song, and I thought it was perfect at first, but then I just like stopped halfway through. Uh, so I don't really know where I was going with that story. However, so like you watch indie wrestling, you watch all of these other promotions. Who would you say right now are your like top three like young wrestlers that like you have your eye on heavy?
Top three. Okay, Anakin Murphy. That's what Anakin Murphy, without a doubt. Um, fuck. Anakin Murphy. Uh, I'm going to count them as one. They're tag team though. The new guys, Jake Bosch and Scott Stanley, the new guys. Love them. Love them. And then, damn, damn. Uh, I'm gonna say five. I'm gonna say five if that's cool with you.
Yeah, go for
So
it.
I have those two, and then I have Ashlyn Alexander, Tommy Davis, and then I'm just gonna say there's so many, man. Chase Holiday.
That's a crazy list. So I wasn't familiar with the new guys until like 6 months ago because of you on Twitter. Because like you tweet to them and you tweet retweet them a lot, and they're hilarious. One of them went missing for like in kayfabe for like a month or two, and like every day they were like, we need to find him, we need to find him, and like I know damn well he was just on vacation, but like so
Yeah.
so being able to like watch these young wrestlers like because you're a hard cammer, so you're literally watching some of these wrestlers make their debut, and you've been around for a long time now, 4 years you said. So
I've been podcasting for 4 years. Yeah.
how long have you been hard camming?
I just hit a year mark in June.
Oh, okay. So only a year. So maybe what I was gonna say won't hold as much, but you're watching wrestlers make their debuts and then in the indie scene and then kind of just grow from there. And
Oh, definitely.
so like you're in like a cool spot because like per se maybe you didn't watch him like exactly on his debut, but like per se people who saw Javon Evans in the indies and now they're
Yeah.
getting to see him shine on TV every Tuesday. Like you're gonna be able to say for certain wrestlers, like, oh, I watched them like all throughout the indies. Does that kind of like does that make you happy being able to like hard cam and watch these wrestlers grow?
Oh, absolutely. Like when I the first time I seen the new guys, for instance, I think they've only been wrestling like a year now.
Mm-hmm.
But when I first seen them and first filmed one of their matches for them, they were wrestling for I want to say 3 months maybe, if. So like it's cool to see like somebody like them like develop in just a year, like a year now, or like I'm trying to think of a wrestler that I've seen like on. I've been going to shows for a few years. Like I don't know. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head.
Mm.
But no, yeah, it's real cool knowing that, like, being in like behind the camera, I am going to be seeing like a lot of these people like flourish and just become bigger and bigger.
Yeah, no, like a lot of them will become like massive stars. So like I know you said earlier that like you would love to be a backstage interviewer or a commentator. Do you have like a dream job opportunity in pro wrestling? Like I'm talking like company, like promotion, like where like if WWE came calling, if AEW came calling, like are any of those dream opportunities for you?
Yes. I wouldn't, yeah. I'm not necessarily like chasing them
Mm.
per se, right now at least.
Yeah, yeah.
For the podcast, maybe. Like, I've always said that, like, the end goal for the podcast is for it to be like, for it to be like a podcast. The end goal for me in wrestling, I feel like, is I want to host a podcast for one of the big companies. Like I want to host like a WWE podcast, like through WWE or AEW or TNA, like one of those. I want to do something like that. Uh, but like if by no means like if one day I started doing backstage interviews and it caught Tony Khan or Triple H's eye, yeah, I would, that'd be a pretty cool opportunity I would take.
Okay, so I love all the talks about wrestling, and I feel like I've gotten all of the wrestling conversation that we had to get here. But
Yeah.
earlier on Twitter, you posted a picture where you were ripped. Your arms were going crazy, and you had a dry scoop shirt on, and you promised me a story about dry scooping.
So so damn, how long has it been? So this is about 3 years ago, 2021. Because that picture was taken in 2021. And I was big in the gym for like a year and a half. Like I was going every day, sometimes twice a day, and I was dry scooping. And if you don't know what dry scooping is, it's when you grab the scoop of your pre-workout and you just knock it back without any water. Or although you take it down with water, but you don't mix it in water or nothing. Uh and there was one day I had this pre-workout, it was called Brain Blitz. And I was like, damn, all right. And I asked the guy at the supplement store, I was like, what's this about? And they're like, well, it's what the title says, bro. Like, it just gets you dialed in, like it has your brain blitzing. And I was like, okay. And I think it's like 300 milligrams of caffeine, maybe. And I was like, okay. So I walk to the gym. I take one scoop, knock it back real quick, take on with some water. I go to the bathroom and I forgot if I took a scoop or not. And I was like, did I dry scoop yet? I was like, I don't think I did. And as I'm like knocking it back, I remember I'm like, shit, I did. So I dry scooped twice in like a 5 minute span.
Mm-hmm.
I'm walking to the gym and it's about a 10-minute walk, I want to say. But then I remembered I had to meet my brother up somewhere. And I was like, shit. So like it was like a 5 minute detour. And then I'm walking, and I felt like I could like lift up a car. Like, have you seen like on GTA when you eat those magic mushrooms or whatever? That's how I felt. Like I felt on top of the world. And I'm like, what's it called? Like I'm in the gym and it was like I remember it very specifically. It was an arm day. So I split back then was I would do shoulders, biceps, triceps all at once. So I have a nasty pump going on. I'm doing curls and I'm like looking in the mirror and I'm like, God damn, I'm about to fight myself. But like, yeah, I dry scooped twice on accident in a 5 minute period.
Dry, dry scooping is like dry scooping. I feel like is okay if you're doing it like controlled. So, but and like when you're grown, because like all right, I got a story for you. So high school football, my junior year, we went undefeated. We won the state
Yeah.
championships. Had a crazy season. We were all jacked up on pre-workout that entire year, and it was all dry pre-workout. We would each snort a line before getting on the bus, and we didn't knock it back. We snorted a line of pre-workout, like because like we were convinced that it hit your bloodstream faster, and no, and listen, it did. Like it got us going crazy, but that wasn't it because everybody had their own pre-workout on the bus. So we were dry scooping before we stepped off the bus. So we were taking a big dry scoop and scooping. Now, most of us were wrestlers too. So like we got away with doing it all football season. I mean, we won the state championships. Coach wasn't going to stop us, right? So but moving into wrestling season, our coach saw us in the locker room one time before, and now we also had this weird thing that like pre-workout was like flavorful, and like we were cutting weight, so like you would put like a little bit of pre-workout in like a little bit of water, and like it would give it flavor. But like we were dumb because it
Yeah.
had sugar in it, which like adds to your weight gain. However, it wasn't helping us, but it was keeping us cracked out on pre-workout. However, long story short, our coach saw like five of us one time snorting lines of pre-workout and banned pre-workout. So like if you were on the wrestling team, you could not like have pre-workout at a match or at practice or like anything. And like he kept that going until we graduated. Like I
It's
swear it was my
hilarious.
class. It was, I'm pretty sure it was like a lot of my class that started on the team too. Now we had this one jacked kid on the that was a senior that was like try it, and then we all got addicted. It's literally like a drug, but like
No, it is.
I stay away from pre workout now. I don't touch that stuff. You know I'm clean. I'm clean off the stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like that that shit is strong.
I haven't been in the gym as hardcore lately.
Mm-hmm.
Like I still go every now and then, but like when I go, I don't do pre-workout because now it just there's no point in doing it now because I don't have as much muscle mass on me to where like
All right, so before we cut out, you were saying something about we were talking about pre-workout, and you were saying how you still do go to the gym on occasion, but you don't use pre-workout anymore. Something about muscle tone or muscle mass.
yeah, just because whenever I would what's it called use pre-workout, it was just to get the pump and to get it dialed in. And now with my muscle mass being down, there's no point attempting to get attempting to get that pump, if that makes sense.
Yeah, nah, that makes perfect sense. I would go to the gym more. I would like work out with weights way more if I didn't. I do jiu-jitsu, so I get thrown around, and I'm only a one stripe white belt, and I train with a lot of blue belts because I compete, so I plan on competing, and so I get my ass kicked on the daily. Like I just had class, and I literally did 5 rounds before running home. And there was one time where I was in a crucifix. I don't know if you know what a crucifix is, but the person's like this, and they're holding you like this, and so I was like this. However, the way he was doing it, he had my arms like sandwiched on his chest, and I don't even know how he did it. I don't even know how he did it. It was a brown belt, so smooth, so smooth. I don't know how he did it, and he had me like this in the crucifix, and the way he was like trying to choke me out, he had my gi coming like this, but he had his gi coming around the back, and he was kind of like tying them around my neck, but I couldn't tap. So I was like tap tap, and like he let go. But it was like that. That's the type of shit I go through. So like I'm be sore when I wake up in the morning because of whatever the fuck he did to me. So I necessarily like I don't have it in me to lift weights every day. So like I do a lot of body weight exercises and like things to try to build up muscle. And I don't really worry about muscle too much because there are weight classes for a reason in jiu-jitsu, and maybe sometimes I just push myself with the big boys too much, but the big boys are sometimes fun to roll with. They're like bears, especially when you get them mad. You get try to wrestle a big jiu-jitsu guy, it's he gets mad, he gets really angry, like come in grappling him, get mad. I've been judo thrown so many times by these big guys and thrown in the mount. Once you're in mount, it's over. But yeah, no, dude. So like, have you only ever done weights and muscles and never any combat sports or athletics or anything like that?
So I did wrestling my 8th grade year
Okay.
for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
I did 2 practices, went to the bathroom and I puked, and I went up to coach and I said, "All due respect, coach, I quit." And he said, if you don't got it, you don't got it. Thanks for me now and now wait all season. And I was like, absolutely, sir. And I went home. I like I don't know. Like I wrestle with my friends and I have when we start drinking, he wants to wrestle and I have the fundamentals down. So like I'll just toss him around and he gets so annoyed. But there's one time at my old job I worked at a restaurant and I worked at a restaurant, I still do, but at my old job, uh, there he was like 16, maybe 17, and he was like a state wrestler. He was traveling like all the time for seminars, and like I just got cocky and I was like, he can't be that good. I'm fucking 9 years older than him. I can easily take on my fill. Like, so, like one day after work, I was going to the lobby and he's like, "You want to wrestle me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll bet you dollars I can pin on you." And he was like, "Okay." Takedown, and I do not know what this kid did, but next thing you know, I'm in the air doing a front flip. He was just tossing me around. He did some sort of roll to me where like he had me in like a guillotine of sorts, and he
Gator roll.
a back. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it was. And he did like a backwards and I did a somersault, and like I was like, okay, tap tap, and he was like, I thought you could on me, and I was like, one more try, and I went for a takedown. He sprawled on my back, and he was like, I'm not gonna hurt him, dude.
Nah, nah, young. So I'm 27, and we just had last Friday we had this young wrestler come in. He's like 19, 20, like getting ready for college wrestling, and D1, so very scary. And he was training with the blue belts, and I was offended. I was like, Marco, you're not gonna like let him train with the white belts, and like my professor knows I'm a wrestler. I was never good. I'm not claiming to be no state champ or nothing, but I've wrestled for 10 years, so I have the experience. I know what I'm doing. I know where my hands should be. I know what I know I got the fundamentals down, like you were saying, right? I got the basics down. And so I was offended, and Marco was like, you want to go for it, go for it. So I grappled with him, and when I tell you, like he had me in the air before I knew what was happening. I don't have a good guard either. So like if like somebody's on top of me, they're winning a lot of the time. Luckily in my case, he's brand new to jiu-jitsu, so I was sweeping the dog shit out of him. But like usually I'm the first one to stand up in jiu-jitsu. Not against that kid. I was butt scooting all day long. I was staying on my ass just going backwards, I was not standing up. Um but shit, yeah, man, Squintz, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Swagcast. It's been a great time talking to you. If you want to tell everybody where to go find you.
You can follow me on Twitter/X or whatever you call it at your boy Squints. Uh, that's the at the end. You can find me on TikTok. Upload more of my music up there at your boy Squints. You can find my podcast on all platforms. Just search up A Man and his podcast, and it'll say boy Squints.
Well, thank you so much, Squintz. Everybody, we're out every single Wednesday. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you check out last week's episode. And if you're on Spotify, make sure you follow. Because a lot of the listeners, y'all not following. You know what? Everywhere you are, make sure you follow. I love y'all. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.